The sound of my alarm cut through the dark at 5:30 a.m., sharp and unforgiving. I turned it off before it could wake Madeline, though she was already awake. She always was. She lay on her side, facing away from me, scrolling silently through her phone, the glow of the screen carving a thin line across her cheek. We hadn't spoken yet. That, too, had become routine. I slipped out of bed quietly and headed to the kitchen. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling the room with a smell that used to mean comfort. Now it was just noise. I leaned against the counter, rubbing my temples, already tired, and the day hadn't even started. Madeline entered a few minutes later, perfectly put together, dressed in a tailored blouse and skirt that screamed ambition. She didn't glance at the coffee I poured for her, even though I'd memorized how she liked it years ago. "Big day?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She checked her watch. Always. That was it. No follow-up. No curiosity about my day. No warmth. Once upon a time, we planned our mornings together, talked about goals, vacations, ideas. Now our conversations felt like forced transactions between strangers sharing the same address. She grabbed her bag and paused at the door. "Don't wait up tonight," she said. "Work thing." "Another one." I nodded. "Sure." The door closed behind her, clean and final. I stared at it longer than I should have. This was my life now, existing on the edges of hers. Watching her leave earlier and come home later. Watching her dress better for rooms I wasn't invited into. Watching her enthusiasm pour into everything except us. I used to believe love was about patience, about understanding seasons, about not keeping score. But patience turns dangerous when it blinds you. At work, I went through the motions. Meetings, emails, numbers. My job paid well enough, but I knew how Madeline saw it. Safe, predictable, unimpressive. She never said it directly, but she didn't have to. Her silence spoke loudly. By the time evening rolled around, I was home alone again. I reheated leftovers and ate standing up, scrolling through my phone absent-mindedly. That's when I noticed it. Madeline's location still active on our shared app, something we'd set up years ago for safety and never bothered to turn off. She wasn't at the office. She wasn't anywhere near it. The dot blinked in a part of the city I recognized instantly. A stretch of hotels near the river, places built for discretion, not business meetings. I told myself there was an explanation. I always did. But something inside me finally refused to settle. I put on my jacket and drove. I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. I parked across the street, my heart pounding louder with every second. Then I saw her car pull in, smooth and confident. She didn't hesitate. That was what hurt the most. She walked into the lobby like she belonged there. I didn't follow her. I didn't confront her. I didn't make a scene. I sat there in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing slowly as realization settled in. Not as rage, but as clarity. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. From that night on, I changed. Not outwardly, not yet. I started listening more, asking fewer questions, watching patterns form. I noticed how she scheduled work trips around certain weekends, how her stories had gaps, how she avoided eye contact when she lied. I checked records, receipts, timelines. Truth leaves traces when people get careless, and Madeline had grown careless. The company gala invitation arrived 2 weeks later, embossed, elegant, impossible to ignore. She read it aloud at the kitchen counter, excitement flickering across her face. "Big night," she said. "You're coming." I raised an eyebrow. "I am?" She shrugged. "It looks better if I don't arrive alone." That's when I knew. The gala wasn't about celebration, it was about display, and she had already decided what role I would play. I smiled faintly. "Of course." She didn't notice the tone, didn't see the shift, but something had already moved inside me. I wasn't walking into that room blind. I was walking in prepared, and when the lights came up and the masks came off, the truth wouldn't whisper. It would speak clearly. The night of the gala arrived, dressed in illusion. Madeline stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the strap of her dress with practiced precision. It was deep blue, elegant, chosen to command attention without begging for it. She looked powerful, like someone who belonged in rooms where decisions were made quietly and consequences landed loudly. She didn't ask how I thought she looked. She didn't have to. I fastened my cufflinks slowly, watching her reflection instead of my own. For a brief second she caught my eyes in the mirror. Something flickered there, impatience maybe, or calculation. "Try not to hover tonight," she said casually, reaching for her earrings. "These things can be political." "I understand," I replied. She gave a satisfied nod, already reassured that I knew my place. The drive downtown was silent. The city lights streaked across the windshield as traffic crawled toward the hotel hosting the event. Madeline checked her phone constantly, fingers moving fast, lips pressed together in concentration. I didn't ask who she was messaging. I already knew. The venue was impossible to miss. Towering glass walls glowing gold against the dark sky, valets lining the entrance like guards. Inside, the air smelled like money and ambition. Every laugh was measured, every handshake carried weight. As soon as we stepped inside, Madeline's posture changed. Her shoulders straightened, her smile sharpened. This was her world. She moved ahead instinctively, greeting people by name, laughter spilling easily from her lips. I followed, unintroduced, unnoticed, exactly where she wanted me. "Madeline!" someone called. She turned, radiant. "Trevor, you made it!" Trevor Lane, sales director, loud voice, louder confidence. He gave her a quick embrace that lasted just a second too long. "And you brought—" He glanced at me, waiting. She waved her hand dismissively. "Daniel, he's tagging along." Tagging along. The words landed softly but stuck hard. Trevor chuckled. "Ah, well, enjoy the open bar." They laughed together. I smiled politely. Inside, something settled. Not anger, not sadness. Certainty. We moved deeper into the room. I noticed how Madeline's laughter changed depending on who she spoke to, how she leaned in closer to certain men, how her eyes scanned constantly, searching for him. I felt it before I saw it, the shift in her energy, the subtle tightening of her jaw, the way her fingers brushed her dress, smoothing imaginary wrinkles. Then Marcus Holloway appeared, tall, controlled, the kind of man who didn't rush because the world waited for him. Conversations bent around his presence. People straightened when he passed. Madeline's smile widened instinctively. "Marcus," she said, almost breathless. "You look, well." "So do you," he replied smoothly, his gaze lingering just a fraction longer than appropriate. Then his eyes flicked to me. "And this is?" She hesitated, just a beat too long. "My husband," she said finally. The word sounded foreign coming from her. Marcus extended his hand. "Good to meet you." His grip was firm, confident, possessive in a way that had nothing to do with business. "Likewise," I said, meeting his eyes without flinching. Something unreadable passed between us. Madeline quickly redirected the conversation, stepping closer to Marcus, her body angling away from mine. "Have you tried the wine yet? It's incredible." They drifted toward the bar together. I stayed back, watching. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. The way she laughed at his quiet comments, the way she touched his sleeve as if it were natural, familiar, rehearsed. I wandered toward the edge of the room, nursing a drink, observing like an outsider at my own marriage's funeral. Conversations floated past me, stock prices, acquisitions, weekend getaways disguised as retreats. That's when I heard it. "He's only here because she feels bad for him." The voice was soft but clear. I turned slightly. Madeline stood with Trevor and another colleague, her back half turned toward me. She gestured vaguely in my direction, smiling as she spoke. "I mean, it's easier than dealing with questions at home," she continued lightly. "Some people just don't know when they've fallen behind." Laughter followed. Not cruel, worse, casual. Something inside my chest tightened, not sharply, but deeply, like a muscle pulled too far. I could have walked away. Instead, I stepped forward. I raised my glass gently, just enough for the small circle to notice. "Madeline," I said calmly. She turned, startled. For a split second, she looked caught. "Yes?" she asked, her smile strained. "I just wanted to say," I continued, my voice even, "it's impressive how confident you are tonight, especially after how busy your last weekend was." The air shifted. Trevor frowned. "Everything okay?" Madeline's eyes locked onto mine. Warning flashed there, silent, urgent. "Daniel," she said softly, stepping closer. "Not here." "Where then?" I asked quietly. "At home? Or maybe at that hotel by the river?" Her breath hitched. Marcus had turned fully now, his expression unreadable. "I don't know what you're implying," Madeline said, her voice tight. "I'm not implying anything," I replied. "I'm just amazed at how quickly lies become habits." Silence spread like spilled ink. Marcus cleared his throat. "Perhaps this isn't the place." "Oh, I agree," I said, turning toward him. "But then again, you didn't seem to mind the setting last Saturday." Madeline's face drained of color. People nearby began to notice. Conversations slowed. Eyes shifted. Marcus stared at me, his confidence faltering just enough. "What are you talking about?" he asked. I smiled. Slow, deliberate. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not here to make a scene." Madeline exhaled shakily. "Tonight," I added, lifting my glass slightly, "I'm just here to tell the truth." The room felt suddenly too small, and the truth was finally standing where it belonged. The silence didn't break right away. It hung there, heavy, awkward, alive. I could feel people pretending not to listen while hanging on to every word. That's the thing about rooms like this. They thrive on secrets, but they feed on scandals. Madeline was the first to move. She laughed, too quickly, too brightly. "Daniel, you've had too much to drink," she said, placing a hand on my arm, nails pressing in just enough to hurt. "You're embarrassing yourself." I looked down at her hand, then back at her face. "Let go," I said calmly. She didn't. Marcus stepped forward, his voice smooth but tight. "Why don't we all take a breath?" he suggested. "This isn't appropriate." "No," I replied. "What's inappropriate is pretending this is about me losing control." A few heads turned fully now. Trevor shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable, but curiosity kept him rooted in place. Madeline finally removed her hand. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice low, eyes sharp. "You're twisting things." I nodded slowly. "That's funny, because I didn't twist the hotel key record, or the parking receipt, or the text that said, 'Same place as last time.'" Her lips parted slightly. Marcus stiffened. "You went through my things?" Madeline hissed. "I paid attention," I corrected. That distinction mattered. The truth didn't come from snooping, it came from neglect, from the way she'd stopped caring whether I noticed anything at all. Marcus took a step back, scanning the room. "This conversation ends now," he said. "If there's a personal issue—" "You turned it into a professional one," I interrupted. "The moment you decided to mix business trips with personal choices." Someone behind us gasped softly. Madeline looked around, panic beginning to outweigh pride. "Daniel, stop. You don't understand how this works." "I understand perfectly," I said. "You thought I was too quiet to notice, too small to confront, too afraid to speak." She shook her head. "You're doing this because you're jealous." "No," I replied. "I'm doing this because I'm done being invisible." The words landed harder than I expected, not just for her, but for me. Marcus straightened his jacket, trying to recover his composure. "You're making serious accusations." "I'm stating facts," I said. "And I don't need to raise my voice to make them real." A small crowd had formed now. No one was openly staring, but no one was leaving either. Phones remained in pockets, for now, but attention was fully locked. Madeline leaned in, her voice trembling despite her effort to control it. What do you want? There it was. Not denial, not outrage, negotiation. I met her gaze. I wanted honesty. You chose something else. She swallowed hard. You're ruining everything. I smiled faintly. You already did. Marcus looked between us, calculation replacing arrogance. If there's proof, he said carefully, we can discuss this privately. I nodded. We will. His eyes narrowed. When? Soon, I replied. Much sooner than you think. Madeline's phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down and froze. I knew that look. That was the look of something unraveling faster than planned. She turned the screen toward Marcus. It's HR, she whispered. He stiffened. What? They want to speak to you, immediately. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Marcus exhaled slowly, then forced a smile at the surrounding group. Excuse me. He walked away, shoulders tense. Madeline stared after him, then back at me. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. What did you do? I didn't do anything, I said honestly. I let your choices introduce themselves. Her hands trembled. You can't destroy my career. I tilted my head. I didn't ask you to destroy our marriage. That hit her. Hard. She looked at me then, not as a prop, not as an obligation, but as someone she no longer recognized. You planned this, she said quietly. I prepared, I corrected. There's a difference. The crowd began to disperse, disappointment evident in their movements. The spectacle wasn't exploding, it was tightening. That was worse. Madeline grabbed my arm. We're leaving. Go ahead, I said. I'm staying. Her grip loosened. You can't stay here alone. I've been alone for a long time, I replied. She stared at me, searching for something. Sympathy, guilt, hesitation. She found none. Without another word, she turned and walked out, her posture rigid, dignity stitched together by sheer will. I stood there, breathing evenly. People avoided my eyes now. Some nodded subtly, others looked away. I finished my drink. 10 minutes later, Marcus returned, alone. His confidence was gone. Walk with me, he said quietly. We moved toward a quieter corner near the terrace. The city lights flickered beyond the glass. You're smarter than I thought, he admitted. I shrugged. You underestimated the wrong thing. He sighed. What do you want? There it is again, I said. You assume this is about winning? Isn't it? I looked out over the city. It's about balance. He frowned. I'm not here to beg or threaten, I continued. I'm here to make sure the truth stands on its own. What happens after that is out of my hands. His jaw tightened. Madeline said you wouldn't push this far. I smiled slightly. Madeline hasn't known me for a while. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. You'll hear from legal. I already have, I replied. His eyes widened briefly. I turned back toward the room, leaving him there. For the first time in months, my chest felt lighter. Not because it was over, but because I had finally stopped carrying something that was never meant to be mine. And the reckoning, real, final, undeniable, was still coming. The morning after the gala felt unreal. Quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful, but resolved. Sunlight slipped through the blinds in thin lines, painting the living room in pale gold. Madeline's side of the bed was untouched. She hadn't come home. I didn't check my phone right away. For once, I didn't need to. I made coffee slowly, standing in the same kitchen where months of silence had eaten away at us. Every object felt heavier with memory. The mug she used to insist was hers, the chair she never sat in anymore. I wasn't angry. I was past that. By the time my phone finally buzzed, I was ready. 3 messages. 1 from Madeline. 2 missed calls from an unfamiliar number. I opened hers first. We need to talk. Please don't do anything else. I stared at the screen for a moment, then set the phone down without replying. The unfamiliar number called again. I answered. This is Daniel Cross. Mr. Cross, a woman said calmly. This is corporate compliance. We'd like to schedule a formal statement regarding concerns raised about Marcus Holloway. Concerns raised. I exhaled slowly. I'm available. The call ended with a time and a confirmation. That was when it sank in. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply stopped protecting lies. Madeline showed up just before noon. Her hair was pulled back hastily, her makeup minimal, nothing like the woman from the gala. She stood in the doorway as if unsure whether she was allowed inside. "You're really going through with this," she said. I didn't look up from the table. "I already have." Her voice cracked. "You could have talked to me." "I tried," I said quietly. "You were never listening." She stepped closer, her eyes searching my face. "I made a mistake." I met her gaze. "You made a series of choices." Silence stretched between us. "What do you want now?" she asked. I folded my hands. "The truth. Publicly, privately, everywhere it matters." Her shoulders sagged. "Marcus is finished." I nodded once. "So is our marriage." That broke her. Tears welled up, but I didn't move to comfort her. Not because I didn't care, but because caring had finally found its limit. "I never thought you'd fight back," she whispered. "I never thought I'd need to," I replied. She left without another word. Over the next week, everything unraveled. Quietly, efficiently. Marcus resigned, for personal reasons. Internal reviews followed. Conversations were rewritten. History adjusted itself around the truth like it always does when it can no longer hide. Madeline took a leave of absence. Friends stopped calling. Invitations disappeared. And me, I slept better than I had in months. Not because I'd won, but because I'd stopped losing myself. The final meeting came on a Friday afternoon. Papers, signatures, closure wrapped in legal language. Madeline looked at me across the table, eyes red but steady. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything." I believed her. But belief didn't mean reconciliation. "I forgive you," I said. "That doesn't mean I stay." She nodded, accepting it. As I walked out of the building, I felt something shift, something quiet but powerful. Relief. Revenge wasn't about humiliation or spectacle. It was about reclaiming truth. And I had, not by shouting, not by destroying, but by standing still and letting lies collapse under their own weight. That night, I poured a drink, not to celebrate, but to acknowledge an ending. And the beginning that followed. Because the strongest revenge isn't making someone feel small, it's becoming whole again, and walking away without looking back.